She looked me dead in the eye across the dinner table and said, "I think we should pause our marriage." Just like that. No warning, no emotion, no hesitation. Like she was pressing a button on a remote. Everyone thinks they'd explode in that moment. Scream, curse, demand answers. But I didn't. I smiled. Because that was the exact second I realized something. This marriage had already been paused. I just hadn't noticed. Before I tell you what happened next, make sure you subscribe, drop a like, and leave a comment. You'll want to hear this one to the end.it was a Wednesday night. Not an anniversary, not a fight night, not anything special. We were sitting at our little oak kitchen table, eating takeout lo mein out of those white boxes, the cheap ones with red dragons printed on them. The light above us flickered once, and in that half-second of dimness, she said it. "Let's pause our marriage." Her tone was calm, almost rehearsed, like she'd been practicing in her head for weeks. Pause. I repeated, setting down my fork. Like, what? We hit play again later. She shrugged, poking at her noodles. Just 3 weeks. I'm going to Tokyo for work, and I think some space would do us good. Time to think. I just watched her. 6 years of marriage, 2 of them good. The rest, well, they were years. She didn't even look up. She just said the word space the way people say salt, a thing you sprinkle in when you want to make something tolerable again. What exactly are we thinking about? I asked. She sighed, finally looking up. About us. About whether we're still happy. There it was. The truth wrapped in vagueness. I could almost see the invisible script she'd memorized, probably something she'd read in an article titled, "How to Gently Detach from Your Spouse Without Being the Bad Guy." "Are you happy?" I asked. "I don't know," she said, pretending to be deep in thought. "That's why I need this. Space. Clarity." Every word felt sterilized, like she'd run it through a filter to make it sound noble. I leaned back in my chair, studying her face. The same woman I'd once stayed up all night talking to, the one I'd built a life with, now looked like a stranger trying to negotiate a lease extension. "So, you want to pause our marriage while you're in another country for 3 weeks?" Her eyes lit up, like she was glad I'd finally understood. Exactly. No pressure. No expectations. Just time to breathe. What she didn't say, but I could feel it like a shadow behind her words, was no accountability. The right move, the emotional move, would have been to argue, to ask who she really was, to beg her not to do this, to demand the truth about what space really meant. But I learned a long time ago that when someone tries to control the conversation, silence can be the loudest answer to "Oh," I said. "Okay." Her fork stopped halfway to her mouth. "Okay. Sure," I said. "If that's what you need, take it." She blinked, confused. That wasn't in the script. She expected resistance, tears, maybe a fight. Not me going back to eating fried rice like she'd just asked what movie I wanted to watch. "You're okay with this?" she asked again, her tone shaky now. "You're an adult," I said. "You know what you want." For the first time, she looked unsure, like my calm had thrown her off balance. The next 3 days were fascinating, in a cold, scientific way. She kept bringing up the pause, like she wanted to make sure I hadn't changed my mind. "It'll just be temporary," she said. 3 weeks. You'll see it'll help." I smiled, nodded, and went about my business. Each time, she watched my face like she was trying to decode a secret message. Friday night, she packed her suitcase. I stayed in the living room, watching TV. She came out twice, lingering in the doorway like she wanted me to say something. I didn't. Saturday morning, I woke up before her Uber arrived. Made coffee, packed her favorite travel mug, and set it by the door. She came down in her beige trench coat, rolling her luggage behind her, trying to look confident. But her hands trembled when she reached for the mug. "So, I guess this is it," she said. "Safe flight." I replied. "Are you sure you're okay with this?" she asked again, almost whispering that I smiled. Not a warm smile. Not a cold one. Just neutral. "You wanted a pause," I said. "Have a great trip." She hesitated, like she expected me to crack at the last second. Then she left and I watched through the window as the car drove off and turned the corner. I stood there a while, letting the silence settle in. It wasn't peaceful or lonely. It was honest. She thought I'd spend the next 3 weeks pacing the house, waiting for her to text, proving my devotion through desperation. But what she didn't know was that her pause had just set me free. That I walked to my office, sat at my desk, and opened a blank note on my phone. Titled it Things to do while marriage is on pause. Number 1. Figure out if I even want to press play again. I already knew the answer. That night, I ordered pizza at 10 in the morning just because I could. Turned up music she hated, left dishes in the sink, drank beer in the living room. Things I hadn't done in years. The walls felt different. Lighter. Like the house had finally exhaled. By Sunday night, the clarity she wanted started arriving. Just not in her favor. And by Monday morning, I had a plan, but not the kind she was expecting. Monday morning started quiet, the kind of quiet that feels like a reset button. No constant background hum of her phone buzzing. No clipped comments about dishes in the sink or coffee grounds on the counter. I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop open and a cup of black coffee, the same table where she'd ended our marriage with a single sentence. The difference now was that the silence didn't feel heavy anymore. It felt honest. Around 9 a.m., I picked up my phone and called an old friend, Marcus, a guy I hadn't talked to much since my wedding. He used to say marriage turned me into a ghost. He wasn't wrong. "Man, I can't believe you actually said okay," he said after I told him what had happened. I didn't see the point in begging someone to stay if they already had one foot out the door. He laughed softly. "You sound weirdly calm about this." I took another sip of coffee. That's the best part. I am calm. Maybe for the first time in years. We talked for a bit, catching up on life, and by the time I hung up, something had shifted in me. I didn't feel like a man waiting. I felt like a man moving. I took a personal day from work and called a divorce attorney that Marcus recommended. His name was David Holloway, one of those quiet types who listens more than he speaks. His office smelled like leather and old paper, and when I told him the situation, he didn't flinch. "You think she's seeing someone?" he asked. "I don't know," I said. "And honestly, I don't care. I just want to understand what my options are." He nodded and started taking notes. In my experience, when someone asks for a pause, what they really want is permission. Permission to act single without saying the word divorce. I didn't respond right away, but that line stuck with me. Permission. That's exactly what it felt like. He gave me a list of things to review: bank statements, joint accounts, property documents. "You're not making a decision today," he said. "You're preparing for one. It's the smartest thing you can do." I left his office with a manila folder and something else I hadn't felt in a long time: control. That evening, I cleaned the house, not out of habit or obligation, but because it was mine. I turned on music she used to complain about, the kind that was too loud or too repetitive, and it filled the rooms like oxygen. I found myself smiling for no reason. By Tuesday, I was starting to enjoy the simplicity of my new routine. Work, gym, home. No second guessing, no tension. That afternoon, my phone buzzed with a text from her. "Landed in Tokyo. Miss you." 2 words that used to twist something inside me now felt like an empty courtesy. I stared at the message for a long time before typing back, "Glad you made it safe. Enjoy your trip." Short, polite, final. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Then nothing. She didn't like that. The next few days went by fast. I started sleeping better. I woke up early and went running. Something she always said was a waste of time. I even stopped by an old diner Marcus and I used to frequent, grabbed a burger, and realized I hadn't done that in years. Not because I didn't want to, but because she didn't like greasy food. Thursday night, she called. The screen lit up with her name, and for a second, I almost ignored it. But curiosity got the better of me. "Hey," I said when I answered. "Hey," she replied. There was background noise, clinking glasses, laughter, the hum of a restaurant. "Haven't heard much from you," she said, like it was an accusation. "Been busy," I replied. "How's Tokyo?" "Good. Tiring. Lots of meetings." There was a pause. "I guess I expected you to be more upset about everything." I smiled. "You wanted a pause. I'm respecting that." Silence stretched between us. "You're being weird," she said finally. "You're distant." "I'm being what you asked for," I said. Space. I could almost hear her frown through the phone. "I just didn't think you'd take it so literally." "You told me to figure things out," I said. "That's what I'm doing." Another pause. "Are you even thinking about us?" she asked. "Every day," I said truthfully. "Just maybe not in the way you think." She sighed. "I'll let you go? It's late here." "Good night," I said. She didn't reply before hanging up. When I set the phone down, I felt nothing. No longing, no sadness. Just clarity. Friday, I went to the gym again. There was a guy there, about my age, named Chris. We got to talking between sets, and before long, he invited me to grab a drink with a group that night. I went. No text to check in with anyone. No need to explain where I was or why. It was simple, easy. We laughed, talked about work, sports, life. And for the first time in a long while, I felt like myself again. Saturday morning, I woke up to 3 missed calls from her. 2 voicemails. I listened to the first one while making breakfast. "Hey, just calling to check in. Call me when you can." The second voicemail was sharper. "It's been hours. Where are you? Call me." I chuckled quietly. She wanted a pause, but apparently, that didn't mean I could live my life. I texted back, "Sorry, was out. Everything okay?" Her reply came fast. "Where were you?" "Out with friends." "What friends?" I stared at the screen, feeling that old control creeping back into her tone. "People from the gym." 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Finally, she sent, "We need to talk tomorrow." "Sure," I replied. I put the phone face down and went about my day. Sunday came, and so did the call. "You sound busy," she said when I answered. "Just having lunch," I said. "What's up?" "I've been thinking about us," she started, voice soft, careful. "This time apart has been harder than I thought." "Has it? Haven't you been struggling?" "Not really," I said. "I'm managing." She didn't like that answer. "That's it. You're just managing. You wanted space," I reminded her. "I'm giving you exactly what you asked for." There was a long silence, and then she said, "I'm starting to wonder if you even care about this marriage." "I care about being in one where both people want to be there," I said calmly. "Do you?" Her breath caught for a moment. "That's what I'm trying to figure out." "Then figure it out," I said. "You've got 2 weeks left." She hung up a minute later, more frustrated than before. I leaned back in my chair, realizing that for the first time in years, I wasn't the one being controlled by the silence. I was the one using it. Monday ended with a strange calm, the kind that comes after a storm, not before one. I cooked dinner for myself, something I hadn't done in a long time. I didn't even realize how quiet the house used to be, not because of peace, but because I'd been walking on eggshells for years, careful not to say the wrong thing or breathe the wrong way. Now, the silence was mine, and for once, it felt like freedom. Tuesday morning, I started a list of things I wanted to do before she came back. Not plans for revenge or anything dramatic, just small things that used to make me feel alive. I went to a local woodworking class at the community center. The smell of sawdust and pine hit me the second I walked in, and something inside me clicked. I hadn't realized how much I missed working with my hands. The instructor, a retired carpenter named Dean, showed me how to plane a piece of walnut. He didn't ask about my life or what brought me there. He didn't have to. That 2-hour class did more for me than a year of trying to save a dead marriage. When I got home, I noticed her name flashing on my phone. I let it ring. The voicemail was short. "Hey, just checking in. Hope you're okay." The next message came an hour later. "Why aren't you answering? Are you mad at me?" I deleted them both. The irony wasn't lost on me. She'd asked for distance, and now she couldn't handle it. Wednesday morning, I went for a jog before work. I passed by the coffee shop I hadn't visited since before we got married. The barista, a woman named Claire, remembered me. "Long time no see," she said with a smile. I smiled back. "Yeah, life got busy." She laughed. "Doesn't it always?" I ordered a black coffee, no sugar. When I sat down at the window table, I caught my reflection. I looked lighter. Not happier exactly, but cleaner, like I'd shed something heavy without noticing. Around lunchtime, my phone buzzed again. A text from her. "Went to a sushi place with coworkers tonight. Wish you could see Tokyo. It's amazing." Translation: "Look what you're missing." I sent back a thumbs up emoji. Nothing else. 15 minutes later, another text. "That's it. Just a thumbs up." I typed, "Sounds nice. Enjoy yourself." The 3 dots blinked on the screen for almost a full minute before disappearing. No reply. That night, I slept better than I had in years. Thursday came, and so did another call. I ignored it. This time, she left 3 voicemails, each one more anxious than the last. The final one said, "I don't know what's going on with you, but this isn't funny. Call me." I didn't. I went to my woodworking class instead. Dean helped me sand a cutting board I'd been working on. "You're getting good at this," he said. "It's peaceful, isn't it?" I nodded. "Yeah. Feels like I'm fixing something without talking about it." "Sometimes that's the only way to fix things," he said. When I got home, I listened to her latest message out of curiosity. I don't like this version of you, she said. You're cold. You're not yourself. She was wrong. For the first time in years, I was exactly myself. Friday afternoon, I called Marcus again. You sound different, he said. Different how? Like you finally exhaled. I laughed. That's one way to put it. He paused. You think she's seeing someone over there? I don't care, I said. And I meant it. Then you're free, he said simply. That night, I went out with the guys from the gym again. We stayed late, talking about everything from bad bosses to good bourbon. When I got home, my phone lit up with 6 new texts. The first few were angry. The last one read, "Are you even going to pick me up from the airport when I come back?" I turned off the phone and went to bed. Saturday morning, I woke up early, made coffee, and sat on the back porch. The air smelled like spring rain. My thoughts were clear. I didn't miss her voice, her routines, or the constant corrections. I missed who I used to be before I started living by her rules. Around noon, Marcus stopped by with a six-pack. You know, he said, leaning back in the chair beside me. This whole pause thing might have been the best gift she ever gave you. Yeah, I said quietly. Funny how freedom comes disguised as abandonment. We sat in silence for a while, watching the clouds move. When he left, I pulled out the manila folder from Holloway's office and started gathering the documents he'd asked for. Not because I was rushing toward divorce, but because I wanted to be ready, prepared, strong. Sunday afternoon, she called again. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. Her tone was softer this time. I've been thinking a lot, she said. About us. Yeah. I think this break is harder than I expected. It's been quiet, I said. Quiet isn't bad. I didn't think you'd take it so literally, she said, a nervous laugh under her voice. You wanted space, I replied. I'm just giving you what you asked for. You're being distant, she said. You're being honest, I corrected. She sighed. I thought maybe you'd fight for me a little. Why would I fight someone who's already walking away? Silence. I didn't walk away, she said. You booked a flight to the other side of the planet and told me not to call too much. She didn't have an answer. I just needed to clear my head, she said after a pause. You still have time, I said calmly. Use it. She hung up first. I sat there, phone still in my hand, and realized something profound. She didn't expect me to let go. She expected me to wait, to beg, to make her feel wanted while she decided whether I was still worth keeping. But that version of me was gone. I wasn't pausing anymore. I was learning how to press play. The following week began quietly, but there was something in the air I couldn't quite define. A shift. The messages from her became more frequent. Long paragraphs about her meetings, the sights in Tokyo, and how exhausting the time difference was. Every message was wrapped in a strange mix of guilt and curiosity. She wasn't really updating me. She was checking the temperature, seeing if I'd started to move on. I kept my replies short and polite. No emotion, no questions, no hooks for her to pull me back in. And every time I didn't bite, her tone got more frantic. By Wednesday, she was texting every few hours. Had dinner with the team. It was fine, but not the same without you. Then a photo of the skyline, a follow-up message. I miss you. I typed back. Looks beautiful. Enjoy your trip. She didn't respond after that. Thursday night, I was at the woodworking class again. We were finishing our first big project, a small table. Dean came over, watching me work the edges with the sander. You've got a steady hand, he said. That comes from patience. I smiled. Took a while to learn that. Takes longer to practice it, he said. That night, I stayed late at the shop, cleaning up the shavings from the floor, enjoying the rhythmic sound of sweeping. When I finally checked my phone, there were 6 missed calls. I listened to one voicemail. We need to talk tomorrow, she said. It's important. I texted back, sure. Call when you're free. The next evening, I was sitting on the porch with a beer when she called. You sound busy, she said. Just relaxing, I replied. What's going on? I've been thinking, she said, her voice measured but uncertain. About what? About us. About this pause. Okay, I said, giving her space to fill the silence. I thought time apart would make me feel clearer, she continued. But all it's done is make me realize how much I miss you. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the sunset. That's good to know, I said. Good? That's all you have to say. You wanted clarity, I said calmly. Sounds like you're getting it. You're not even going to tell me you miss me too? I've been busy, I said. Working, living, breathing. You're being cold, she said. No, I said softly. I'm being honest. She was quiet for a moment. I just thought you'd fight for this. For us. You made the rules, I said. You wanted space. I respected that. Isn't that what adults do? You're twisting my words. No, I said. You just don't like that they stopped working. She didn't know how to respond. After a long silence, she said, I'm coming home early. I want to talk in person. I finished my drink before answering. When? Monday. Your trip was supposed to last another week. I know, but I can't focus here. I need to see you. Okay, I said. Safe flight. She hesitated. That's it. That's it. When the call ended, I sat there for a while, listening to the wind. I wasn't angry. I wasn't nervous. I was done. The weekend passed quietly. I went to the gym, met with Marcus for lunch, and finished sanding the small table I'd made. On Sunday night, I placed it in the living room. It looked solid, simple, honest. The kind of thing that stays standing no matter what's put on top of it. Monday arrived, gray and cool. Her flight landed at 2. I didn't go to meet her. I didn't wait at the airport with flowers or apologies. At 3:10, the door opened. She walked in carrying her suitcase, hair shorter, face tired. Hey, she said softly. Hey, I replied. She looked around the house. It was cleaner, different. The clutter was gone, replaced by order. You've been busy, she said. You could say that. You changed things. I had the time. She set her bag down, fidgeting with her jacket. We need to talk. We do. She sat on the couch while I stayed standing. I made a mistake, she said, eyes wet but steady. Which part? All of it. The pause, the distance. I thought it would help me think, but it just made me realize how much I want us to work. And why now? I asked. Because I was wrong, she said quickly. I thought space would make me feel free, but instead, I felt lost. You wanted clarity, I said again. And now I have it, she said. I want my husband back. The same husband who agreed to be put on hold. I asked. She flinched. You're angry. I get it. No, I said. I'm not angry. I just see things clearly now. I walked over to the table I'd made, ran a hand over its smooth surface. I built this while you were gone, I said. Every inch of it. It's solid. Real. I didn't need permission to make it. I didn't need approval. I just did it. She blinked, unsure where I was going with this. I realized something while I was working on it. I continued. I'm happier when I'm building something instead of fixing something that's already broken. So that's it, she said quietly. You're done? You asked for a pause, I said. I used it. She started crying, real tears this time. Please don't do this, she whispered. We can start over. From what? I asked. From manipulation? From guilt? From pretending we're something we're not? She covered her face with her hands. I just needed to figure things out. And I figured out something too, I said. I don't need a marriage that survives on conditions. I want a partnership. And if that's not what this is, then it's time to move on. She looked up at me then, eyes red, face trembling. You're serious? Completely. I walked to the desk, pulled out the folder from Holloway's office, and set it on the table. This isn't about anger, I said. It's about honesty. We both deserve that. She stared at the folder like it was a weapon. You talked to a lawyer? I talked to myself first, I said. The lawyer came later. I don't want a divorce, she said. Then you shouldn't have asked for a pause. The room went silent. She stood up, grabbed her bag, and walked to the door. Before she opened it, she turned back. You're going to regret this. Maybe, I said, but I'll regret it as a free man. She left without another word. The sound of the door closing was softer than I expected. I sat down at the table I'd built, ran my fingers over the grain again, and felt something like peace. The kind of peace that doesn't ask for permission. That night, I cooked dinner, poured a glass of wine, and turned on some music she used to hate. Every note felt like a declaration. She'd asked for a pause. I'd pressed play. If you've made it this far, make sure to subscribe, drop a like, and leave a comment. Because sometimes, the story isn't about what you lose. It's about what you finally decide to stop chasing.